This is an interview for Keep Magazine. Today I interviewed Terrell Jones, who's a artist and designer based in LA, but he was born and raised in Michigan. His art style is self-described as pop precisionism, which I'll let him explain during the interview. He's worked for bands like the Grateful Dead and has had many gallery showcases. Um, Really exciting to have him on. Hope you enjoy the interview. Hey Terrell, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's really hot out here. We're cooking. We're cooking. So first question. I've seen you talk about pop precisionism in a lot of your interviews. From what I understand, it's like a fusion between pop art, precisionism, and realism. But it's kind of your own term that you've coined. So I think it'd be best if you explained it.
Yeah, so pretty much the idea of that just came around when I think actually when I did it, I was on a flight after I had just dropped a piece. But a big reason why I chose to even come up with it in the first place was just I think a lot of times when people weren't as familiar with me, they'd be asking me like what is the style that I work in, or kind of just asking me to describe my art. And there was never really a good catch all for that, or never really a good, just simple, concise way, excuse me, to really address that. And that from then on, I was just kind of thinking through it and trying to figure out exactly what I wanted that to be. And excuse me, my bad. But yeah, at the time, I really just started to kind of think about what was some all-encompassing phrases that would kind of describe my art. And I think a big piece of that is the pop part of the pop precisionism and just being inspired by pop artists, especially in like the 70s, 80s, kind of the Hiroshi Nagai's and Edward Hopper and David Hockneys of the world. And kind of that era was super inspiring for my art. And I think that the precisionism kind of comes in with, especially in a lot of my earlier works, with just the kind of geometric shapes that I would use and a bunch of sharp corners, especially on the um, more like landscapes and like buildings and architecture. There would just be like a lot of sharp corners and sharp angles. And then, yeah, like I said, with that combined with a lot of the vibrant elements of that pop art scene, would kind of bring it together and make pop precisionism. And I don't think that it necessarily still um, is able to be kind of concise because clearly, I just went on for I don't know how long describing it, but I think it does a way better job than whatever I was doing before that.
You're right. That's perfect. We don't hear uh, many artists or designers come out of this space. And also another thing that I saw in one of your interviews is you describe yourself as a designer, which
Yeah.
um, like what part of you would you say is the more designer side of you?
Yeah, for sure. I think that comes into play, especially when you think about the more client work that I've done. So any work that I've done for bands or music artists, where I've worked on merch and poster design and stuff like that, that I don't really consider as close to my artistic side per se, just in terms of like more painterly stuff I do. I think that a lot of the merch design that I've done has been a lot more design geared and a lot more designed for just in the way that I make it.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's really interesting. I have seen a lot of your design work for Grateful Dead as well as other bands. What would be like goat tier band that you'd want to work with in the future? Like dream collab.
That's a great
It
question.
it doesn't have to be just bands. Maybe any legacy brand of any sort. But yeah.
Um, this might come out of left field, but I'm kind of a low key NSYNC fan.
Mm.
Um, So I feel like it would be really cool to make like an in sync design, just to kind of complete the circle.
No, no,
But
yeah, no, no.
yeah,
That
uh,
I think that'd be really cool to see. But speaking of the Grateful Dead, how did you get into contact with them, and what was the experience like working with them?
yeah. So pretty much, I'm just blessed to know a lot of cool people, and some of the connections I've made have come directly from me being in the NFT space and just being able to connect with other artists and designers. And there's just a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool things, and a lot of like people that they'll low key just be like doing NFTs just on the side, and they actually have like a way cooler job in the uh, IRL. So there was a person I was introduced with. He's a super cool guy. His name is Roswell, but he pretty much works at a record label, and I was introduced to a lot of cool people through him as well, just in knowing him and now living near him. Um, and like I said, super talented designer and artist as well. And we work together on a lot of different fronts. But yeah, I was introduced to some people through him, and just being able to work closer with that record label. And through that, they kind of are able to bring you different stuff. So it'd be like, hey, are you interested in working for this band or this artist on a design? Or, oh, this band needs a poster for their tour coming up. And just being able to pick and choose. So, Grateful Dead is a huge one for them. So, any chances that I get to work with legacy bands like that, I'm always going to take them. So, whenever they come my way with something like that, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Cool. Well, that's really cool. I think connections are really, really important in our space. I think they'll forever be important, regardless of what happens to our respective industries. Um, Speaking of NFTs, I think I actually saw your work during that NFT craze, like at the peak of
Oh yeah.
NFTs. I actually saw your work, but I didn't know it was yours at the time. But obviously more recently, I found out that it's yours, right? But a lot of artists and designers got really like almost lost in that space, and they it didn't translate into like their own personal brands. But I feel like you've really built like a name for yourself. Um, what do you think? What do you think allowed you to do that and allowed you to make that move from NFTs to where you are now?
Yeah. So I think just first and foremost, there's a lot of ways that you can approach the space, and there's going to be 100 different collectors or artists or whatever that you're interacting with from person to person. So I think that my exact playbook book isn't going to work for someone else because they have other people that follow them or other people in their algorithm. Um, but the way that I feel like I've found out that it works for myself is just making it in addition to your existing art career and not necessarily all encompassing it. And just how you said, there's some people that kind of get lost in it, and you don't ever want to be that person where, especially with the space being so. Let me think of a good word for it. Especially volatile, and rapid pace to where it could be here today and gone tomorrow, and you don't ever want to put your all into it and then have it disappear the next day, and then now all of a sudden you feel like you don't have a career. So I think that I've found a good balance with being able to have that NFT side, but also still do other things, like you said, me working with the bands or artists, or just some other stuff I've done, and just being able to have stuff that is more solidified or storied in the real world. That's not just the NFTs, but I mean, obviously, I feel like my art progressed once I found out about the Web3 world, and like I said, I just wanted it to be in addition to everything I had going on instead of being the only thing I had going on.
Yeah, I think we could all learn from that in terms of not putting all of our eggs into one basket and just be
Exactly.
doing
That's a
multiple
great way to say it.
yeah be doing multiple things at a time. And I feel like more recently we've been entering more of these, as you said, volatile eras where like things come today and they're gone tomorrow. So I want to take it a little bit back. There's an interview I read where you were talking about a time in 2021 where you're working at FedEx and one of your early works got a serious bid and it really switched something inside you. You said something along the lines of you're not watching any more movies, no more TV shows. You're dedicating all your time to your craft, really. So, what were the things you really gave up, or what was the thing that really switched that mindset and made it actionable to get where you are now, where you have your art on display at shows?
Yeah, I think at that time especially, there was just that sense of having to strike when the iron was hot. And with the volatile nature of the space, it definitely felt like I just needed to take advantage of the opportunity that I had and really pour all of myself and all of my time and all of my effort into it. So yeah, at that point I had already quit FedEx, and that was around a time where I wanted to take my art more serious, both in the creation of it, but also in the promotion of it as well. And from there, I really just once I had got that bid, it was just like, oh, like I'm not gonna, like you said, I'm not gonna watch movies or shows anymore. Like I don't even think I was listening to a lot of music. I was really just listening to Twitter Spaces at the time of people talking about the Web3 space and really just trying to absorb as much knowledge of it as I could. And there's such a learning curve of the different terms and so many things. And I think that just me looking back now, there was so much that I was unaware of, but trying to figure out or trying to absorb with those spaces that now I can kind of look back and be like, oh, like at this point, I'm like 4 years removed from there. So there's a lot of these terms that, I may tell to a person that's not as familiar with the space and they'll be like, what are you talking about? But, and me at that time, I could go back and be like, yo, what are you talking about? But, now just being in the space for so long and kind of having to learn these things on the fly sometimes, but having to learn it just in order to be able to navigate the space as best as you can. So there's a lot of that stuff now that I'm like super aware of that I wasn't at that time. So yeah, at that time I just really wanted to pour everything that I had into it and really just kind of seize that opportunity because I saw what it could do and I saw what it could turn into if I really put everything that I had into it. There was so many stories at the time of just people being able to pretty much quit their jobs or um, really just turn it into something that I'd never been able to see before. I think before being exposed to this space, there wasn't a lot of examples of people like me or artists like me being able to have financial freedom through art. Um, Definitely not in a way that you're not going to have like a middleman in there or like a gallerist or a gallery or whatever else, that is going to be in the middle between you and a collector being able to take your money or whatever else. So just having it be a space where artists and collectors are connecting directly and for artists to know a bunch of their collectors is just it's just such a crazy new concept for me. So yeah, really just trying to take that opportunity and do as much with it as I could.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like there's very few moments we come across where things like become real, and very quickly they become real.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. You said you learn a lot on the fly. Have you had any like formal art training, or like did you go to art school or anything like that?
No, I wish I could have. I tell people all the time, if I could have gone to art school, I would have. But at the time, I couldn't afford it, and I'm a person that doesn't even like the idea of having any debt. So, yeah, I didn't go to school for anything, much less art. Um, so most of what I know, I've learned it from myself, and there was definitely some early tips that my aunt, who's a portrait artist, like graphite on paper, some early tips that she gave me when I was coming up. She was definitely a huge inspiration. But yeah, besides that, I haven't had any like formal training.
Yeah. On the topic of like processes, you speak of this flow state where you try to not think too much, or not cloud your mind with too many thoughts. How do you get into that space? Is it like you said you don't listen to much music, but is there certain music you put on? Is there certain environments you need to be in? Like how do you get into that place? How do you channel that energy?
Well, first of all, I listen to music now.
Oh, okay.
Early on, yeah, early on, I had turned it off.
Locked in.
But yeah, no, I'm back. I'm back into the music and movies and shows. But yeah, I think the flow state thing, that's like the $1 million question. Because like if it was that easy to get into it, then I think us artists would have a lot easier time.
Mm,
Because I talk to artists a lot, and we all, I feel like everyone has like a different name for it. I call it the flow state, and I've heard other people call it the flow state, but I've heard a million different terms for it. But um, that's really just being able to not think and to kind of just go. And some people have described it as being able to have a conversation with God. Um, but yeah, really, it's just being able to just be led by just pure inspiration. And for me, I feel like times that I've gotten into it is just being able to look up after you've finished a piece or a section of a piece, and just being like, oh, like, how did I get here, pretty much. And there's certain pieces of mine that I can look back at now, and you could tell me or ask me how exactly I did it or what my process was for the piece, and I wouldn't be able to tell you because I was just so lost in it all, um, of doing it. So yeah, I think it's kind of an unconsciousness of creating. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't know that I have any good tips or tricks on how to get into it, because it's kind of a thing of just pure inspiration and kind of madness. And um you can kind of be in that place and kind of want to stay there because you know that it's not easy to get back there. And I've heard stories from people of just having months where they're not able to kind of get back into that place of wanting to create or being able to kind of just not think too much about what they're doing. So yeah, I don't know if I have any tips for it, but that's just the way I see it.
yeah. Do you find yourself like chasing that state, or is it something that you just wait until it comes? I guess.
Yeah, for me, I think I'd rather it come naturally, because I feel like if you're chasing it too hard, then it's not going to be what you're looking for anyway. Um, I think it's kind of something that you discover or stumble upon rather than you go digging for.
Okay. Okay, a few questions left. What's your life like outside of the art and design space? Like, what do you fill your time with? Do you have any like hobbies outside of this, or you just locked in all day?
Uh, I think two of my biggest hobbies are probably just eating and watching movies and shows. I'm a huge foodie, so I just try to have really good dining experiences and like discovering new restaurants or eating new foods that I hadn't before. It's just something that I love to spend my time on. And then also, like I said, watching movies or shows. There was definitely that time where I wasn't watching the movies or shows. So I feel like lately I've been making a point to kind of go back in that time and watch some movies that I should have already watched by now. But at that time I was like, no, no movies or shows for me. So just kind of retracing my steps and being able to discover those movies. And I've kind of made a list in my phone, so I'm able to like check them off once I do watch the movies.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like there's also some movies that I should have watched over time that I just never got around to. So there's been a lot of that too. One that I'd watched recently was the Grand Budapest Hotel from Wes Anderson. Um, but yeah, once I watched it, I was like, oh, I should have already watched this before. I don't know why I was avoiding this for so long, but yeah, I had a really good time with that one, and I feel like a lot of those that I'm encounter now will have an effect on my art. Just being able to absorb those types of, I think those are pieces of art in themselves. So being able to kind of pour that inspiration back into my art will be good.
It's kind of crazy that you mentioned that. I only watched the Grand Budapest Hotel like a month ago. Like, and
Exactly.
I was also putting it off. I watched one of the other more recent Wes Anderson films. It's the one. It's a Roald Dahl adaptation. It's the one where the guy can see without his eyes. Something like. It's one of those. Yeah. Okay. Do you think like in hindsight it was worth it for you to give up that like during that period of time to give up forms of media like movies and TV shows like, or do you kind of regret it a bit? I don't know. How do you feel about it in
No,
hindsight?
I think it was definitely worth it at the time. Just me being able to pour everything into the art, and then also at the time I was lucky enough to have art pieces that I'd worked on for years prior that were never able to be sold in the way that you can sell NFTs. So, as I was being able to sell and market those pieces from the past, I was able to work on other pieces in the background and plan months and months ahead. So it just made a really good, consistent drop style for me. Just being able to always have another piece of art ready to promote and to be collected eventually. Um, so yeah, no, there's definitely no regrets. And like I said, now I have that time to be able to re-encounter those series shows or whatever. So they're never gonna go anywhere. It's not like they're gonna stop existing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's will always be some time to be able to get back into those.
Right, perfect. And then very last question, where what really keeps you going? Like, what is it about the art and design space that you love that keeps you coming back? Um, and also like just adding on to that, um, what role does Michigan play? Because I've seen a lot of your design work, and Michigan comes up again and again. Um, yeah. So those two questions, I kind of sandwiched them together. If you want, I can repeat one of them towards the end. But yeah, what
No
keeps you going?
worries.
And Michigan.
Okay. What keeps me going, honestly, is just bringing my ideas to life. Um, Even if I wasn't being paid to bring my ideas to life, I think I still would. I think that that's just where I kind of find the joy in creating is to just know that I have something in my head and to be able to kind of portray it and bring it to life and be able to show it to other people is just something that I've always felt is so cool. Um, and yeah, Michigan, obviously it's where I was born and raised, and I lived there for most of my life, 25 years. I think Michigan is just, I'm always going to be, I'm always going to want to pour Michigan back into the art. Um, And I think that just being able to be raised in places like that, I feel like you're always gonna kind of be commanded to address that in the art in some way. I feel, or just because I think that it is something that is important and something that is gonna always be big with me. I think that I think anyone, just with where you're raised, like I think that's always going to be the perspective that you're coming from and being the angle that you're able to attack things with. Because I hear about people that were born and raised where I'm at now in California, or people that were born and raised in places like New York, and them just having a completely different upbringing, and that having an effect on their art and their stories. So yeah, I think that where you're raised is always going to have some effect.
Yeah, perfect, man. That's all the questions I have for you today. It's really generous of you to come on here and have this conversation with us.
Glad we can make it happen.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.